Hi, thanks for joining today's session. My name is Karthik Totapalli, working as a senior integration developer at Billinium Malaysia. My topic for today's meetup is understanding Mule project folder structure, and I'll be providing some studio tips and tricks for having better development experience for better productivity as well. Let's get started. My thought process in choosing this topic is I struggled with this understanding project folder structure in my initial days of MuleSoft development, right? I strongly believe we learn a lot from our experiences and also from people around us a lot than we study or than we read, right? We learn from our experiences and people around us. So I want to share this with everybody. Of course, we are MuleSoft as an we have a good community here, developers community. So I thought I will give it back. So agenda is we'll be understanding what are the projects folders we have in our meal project, and what is the significance of each one, and also some meals of recommended way of structuring the project, right? Second one, studio tips and tricks, which helps your makes your development process easy. Okay. Okay, we'll jump into studio. This is what we see whenever we import an or whenever we create a new MuleSoft project. We will be importing RAML, we will be scaffolding it. Even though you don't do it, this is what structure you have with you currently. Let us start from top. Right. The first folder we are seeing is source main mule. As the name indicates, this is a main folder which contains mule flows. Right. These are the different mule flows we will be having. Okay. Uh, everything else other than global.xml is what you create for a specific implementation of a business logic. This global.xml is specifically meant for handling your connector configurations or some other properties configurations, right? MuleSoft recommends to have this global.xml. Without this, you can create connector properties in your each Mule flow. But just think of it, when there are so many endpoints, like there are multiple business logics implemented in this API. Let's say you have more than 5 or 6. So when you are making changes in future, or when you are troubleshooting some issue, it will be difficult for you to go into each Mule configuration file and checking global elements where this particular connector configuration is present. Instead, if you have all those at one place, like it will be easy for you to go and check the properties. And since it is standard, even though you are working on some other project which you did not develop, right? So we'll have multiple developers in our team. We'll be working on different projects at a time. So it will be easy. You have a standardized structure in your organization. That is what global XML is meant for. This is what MuleSoft recommends, right? That is about it. And there is a debate always, like how many flows you should have, like different flows, one, two. You may have different separate flow for some other logic implementation. There are two things you should be remembering. There is a concept called fine grained, coarse grained. Fine grained means having small section of logic implemented as an in one flow. That is called as a fine grained flows. Okay. Similarly, we can have fine grained APIs as well, which means this API is meant for having an implementing an simple business functionality, like single functionality. In this case, ours is get account details. That is it. This is fine grained API. Let's say you have an API which does all these functionalities, which does account details, fetching account details, fetching customer details, doing a fund transfer, making a payment. If you have all these in one API, that will called as coarse grain. This API has multiple business implementations. That is the difference. Always recommended to have fine grained APIs. Again, this is as depends on your perspective, depends on your organization structure, and best practice implemented. Since we are here, I'll also explain you. There is some other debate we always have within our developers. When should you use a flow? When you use a subflow, right? There is a difference here. Question is when to use one of these. For this, we should go back to fundamentals. Ask a question: what is flow? What is subflow? Then we can ask when to use. The main key differences is subflow does not have a source. You cannot put a source connector here in subflow, and also subflow does not have an error handling inside it. A flow has error handling separately, but subflow doesn't have an error handling component. You cannot have it. If you have an requirement where you don't have no need to have your own error handling and no source component is required, then you go for subflow as a thumb rule. But again, depends on your perspective, right? Okay, we are done with this folder now. Hope you understood. This contains mule flows. Let's go to second folder, which is main Java. Mule4 is very powerful. You can do almost anything in integration patterns. But let's say still there is something missing or some external libraries you want to use for some kind of conversion, some kind of functionality. Then you may need to write in Java code. Then we place all those Java files inside source main Java. That is it. And next, source main resources. Again, the name indicates resources. Means this folder should contain all your project artifacts like project properties, project scripts. You have your YAML here, right? So all these should be under resources. Whenever you import a RAM, whenever you create an API with YAML scaffolding, that YAML comes under resources automatically. And whenever you create a data use script here for your transformation connector, you can make it as a file or an inline. If you make it as a file, the data view.dwl file comes under resources automatically. And obviously, we have properties, right? You can have some metadata, your example, some schemas, all those things can be under resources. And one more thing you see, we have properties, but environment specific properties. It is easy for promoting from one environment to other environment. Instead of making changes every time you test, you promote. So you just keep it here. So you automatically promote it. When you are promoting, you put this environment name as runtime properties. So it will fetch. It will refer to proper properties for the specific environment. Done. Test Java. This contains the testing resources needed for Java classes. What you mention anything here? Test resources. This is also something related to your mule flow. Whenever you are placing some metadata for your transformation for your preview, right? That metadata comes here. All those examples comes here. A minute test suite. Whenever you create a minute test suite for your specific flow, right? Then it creates an a minute test suite which comes under this folder automatically. Okay, and all these are jar files for your connectors. Here we have a database connector, so we have database jar file. If you have some Salesforce connector you are using, the dependency comes here. So all these are jar files for your connectors. You have API kit here, which is in our main flow, right? So those are the jar files here. If you add something, let's say probably we'll try adding email just to show you. I I pull this email thing, and so automatically you will see an email jar file coming here. This is it, which happens because whenever you drag this connector, it is adding to your work project, which is in POM file actually. You'll see the dependency of your email in your POM file here. DB connector, a minute runner, a minute, so email connector, right? So POM is for dependency management. We'll come back there. So now we are done with all this up to here, right? Next, source and target folder. These are very key things. Let me delete this so that the error goes off. Okay. Whenever you export a project, you will see source folder containing your required mule artifacts, main and test. That will see when you export it. And target one is fascinating one. Theoretically, to say target folder contains outcome of your build. You can delete this. This is the result of my previous build, so I can delete this. It does not impact your mule flow functionality. So if you see now target folder is empty, I'll try to deploy this, which means it is building and then it will deploy. Right? You observe when the build is complete, build success message is appeared in console. You will see output in target, output of the build process, like jar file and other metadata. Let's wait for that. It's building, build success. Now if I refresh this target folder, you will see all that coming again, right? And one more key point is getting into GitHub, right? Then you can exclude this target folder. Your target folder doesn't need to be present as part of your code, right? This is just output of your build. Whenever you build in Studio, it comes up again. Okay, that is it. And Mule artifact JSON. This is also an important artifact in your project. We generally use it to do two things, like masking your properties in Cloud Hub. So if you go to Runtime Manager, go to Properties, you will be seeing all runtime properties with those values. If you don't want to make it visible, you can just put it as mask it. And also, this Mule artifact JSON is an configuration file which tells what should be part of your project. This is what I am mentioning, but by default, if you go here meta-inf mule artifact, you will have this mule artifact JSON, which tells this project contains three configs, mule configuration files, these three, and I should be masking this property, secure property, and also minimum mule version required to run this project, and class loader. What are the files I should be exporting? Right? This mule artifact.json defines the project. Right? This is in target, which comes automatically. All these are automatically populated, but you can change that. If you are creating and some mule custom connector, then we will working on a lot on this. Right? What should be exported, what should be part of your connector. Next, Pomlet XML. If you did not recognize by now, let me tell you, this mule project structure is Mavenized structure. I think from Mule 3.8, every project is Mavenized. Okay, this is the Maven framework. In this framework, POM is an important artifact. You will be managing all your dependencies through Maven. You will be managing all your dependencies through POM.xml. If you remember, as I said, whenever I add a connector, it will be added to POM.xml automatically. Or in another way, you can add some dependency here. If you want to add some other connector, I'll mention the details here. When I save it and build it, project will automatically import and add it to my project. That is about it. And you can also create archetypes based on POM.xml. Archetypes are like it gives an skeleton project for you. You can automatically bootstrap an mule project as per your enterprise or organization standards. You create an archetype and you can create a mule project on that every time. Okay, so that is about the project folder structure. I recommend you to go through Maven framework once. That gives you an insightful knowledge about this folder structure and how to use each one. You can make wonders if you understand Maven project structure. Okay, we'll move to the second part of my presentation. Right, we have seen global XML, environment specific property files, fine grained flows. I explain you data view script files. Yeah. and understanding of each folder. We are good. Let's go to our next topic. Studio tips and tricks. There are minor inconveniences in your studio, right? Development process is not quite easy in Eclipse. There are some minor inconveniences. So I found an workaround for that. I'll explain you what I found. If it's interesting, it will be helpful for you. First one, printing console log to an external file. The problem here is, the inconvenience I faced is whenever I'm in debug mode, the console window takes a very little space, and I also have to watch my mule flow where my debug is, and also have to watch a mule event as part of troubleshooting, right? Let me quickly put a debug and explain you what I mean. You understand it better. Okay, it's already debug. Let me test it. Okay, so let me send a request. Here it is. Here I want to see my console logs, and I also have to see where the breakpoint is in my mule flow, and I also have to understand my mule event. Right? There's too much going on now, so it is clumsy. There's an option where you can print your console log to an external file and read from there. Okay, let me tell you also this. The clumsiness is one problem, and second problem is the console log will be overridden. Right? If you if the your if your flow is too much complex, or if you're enabling a debugging which gives you verbose logging, the earlier logs will be overridden, so you cannot see the previous logs if there is too much of logging happening, or if you're testing multiple times the same flow. These two problems can be solved with this. How do we do that? Let me stop it and go back to deployment window. So when you're deploying, right, we can configure the deployment process. Okay, so whenever we are deploying, we have an option to configure some configurations. So debug as, configure it. I go to common, we have an option called as output file. There you can mention your file name where you want to be forwarding this console log. A note here, I'm not creating extra logs. I'm just printing whatever comes in console to an external file. That is it. Okay, so I configured to this location. I'll hit debug. What happens is whatever coming in this console will be forwarded to that file. Let me go to that file now. This is that file, right? Let me refresh it. This is that file. Console redirect to this console.log. Okay, so logging is happening here. If you observe here, whatever comes in this console will be coming here. But here we have one more problem. Console is like auto refresh, but here we have to close and open the file again. To solve that problem, we have one more task to do. Go here, uh, open PowerShell in your PC. Uh, Command prompt where you can use some Linux commands, right? Is Windows shell script. Okay, we have to go to. Okay, it's already in location. Our command for that is this one: get content file name -wait. So it will automatically refresh the console log every time it's updated. I'm just showing you in two different screen, two different windows on same screen. But if you have two screens in your work setup, you can just put this console log in other screen, so you'll can see everything. Right? It won't be this clumsy. I can just minimize this now. Okay, so I'll test it from my Postman. Whenever I hit send, see, it is something better than earlier screen. I'm able to see my mule event. I notice where the connector is, and also I see logs here. Okay, hit it, log will be updated. Yeah, if you have two screens, it will be more easy for you. I cannot share two screens at a time, so to record this video, I am doing it on same screen. This is one thing. There is also one more interesting thing to do here. Reset perspective. I'll have my console. You can detach the console instead of writing it external file or doing that. You can detach it, so it comes out. So it will be like this. You have your studio and your console is detached. It will be a separate window. And you don't see console here anymore because it's already externalized. This is good, but still the earlier console logs will be overridden, right? Since it is not external file. So if you have too much verbose logging, you need to have earlier logs. This is an option to externalize it. Hope it will be useful for you. And let's go to next one. Working sets. Okay, let me reset the window. I'll explain you what the working sets is. Here it is. Actually, my workspace is containing all these projects. Like there are so many. Even though I close them, that is still hard to navigate and search for my project every time. Okay. When you are in a project, this quickly accumulates. You will have multiple, probably even more than 10 or 20 projects in your workspace, right? You'll have a system API, experience API, process API for every project, so that accumulates quickly. You'll have tens of projects. It is very hard to navigate. So what I do is I create a working set. You click on these three dots, select working set, and then you create a new one. Make it as Java because it's a Java project. Like every mule is built on Java. Okay. Now I'm working on, let's say, security policies. I'm preparing some policy project or some messaging related project. Okay, let us call it as messaging. I'm working on LinkedIn. I'll add that. So this is, I'll remove this. So LinkedIn and what else? Do you have WhatsApp? Yeah, I'll add it. So I'm working on these two projects currently. Finish. Click OK. Now go here. Set working set. Messaging, right? Messaging. Click OK. So you see only those two here. It doesn't matter if your project is open or closed. This one still works perfectly. So I have only these two things to navigate now. It'll be easy. Working set is like a logical separation in your workspace. There won't be any separate folders created in workspace. It'll be as it is. Just logically representation wise, it'll be segregated. So I created an security working set here. I'll be working on these two. Even though the project is open, it will be coming here. So let me create one more for you. New one. It will be in Java project. So let's say I'm giving a meetup presentation. Okay, on March 13. I'll be showing this one to everyone. Right, I'll add that. So I'll remove this. This is what I'm showing everyone in this mule meetup. Okay, finish it off. Okay, and go here. Working set. I want to do on meetup one. Working on this meetup project. I don't want to see anything else in my package explorer here. Click OK. I'll see only this one. It'll be easy for me. If you want to see everything else, the default one is window working set. You'll have this by default in your studio. Window working set. Click on this, you'll see everything. Okay. This will be useful to make it clean instead of being cluttered and having too many things to navigate. Useful one to make your developing experience and what do you call, instead of being too complex, it will be an easy, smooth going experience. Let's go to the next one. Generate documentation. I'll show you how to do it, and then I'll tell you what it gives us, how to use that. Okay. If you see here, there is an icon with mule icon with on a file. Okay. Click on this. It generates document for your project. Okay. So location will be, let me call it as meetup March 13. So in this folder, it will create some documentation. We'll see what it is, what it creates and how to use that. It creates some files based on this project, which will be useful for us. Okay, let us go there. Meetup. This is a folder created now. Images are, it gives images of all the flows in your project. Right? We need these images as part of documentation purpose, right? We will be creating some low-level design document or high-level design document. Probably you need those mule flows. You can just take a picture from here. It's hard to take picture of this long file, elongated flow. So it gives you all the images of every flow. Okay. And also interestingly, you open this HTML pages, you will see this. It has all the flows, okay, including your immune test suite and also global XML. I'll tell you when we used it. There is a situation like we are training other colleagues in your company in MuleSoft, but still they are not in your team yet. So we cannot share them the whole project, right? Since the project contains some sensitive information, passwords, connectivity configurations, we shouldn't be sharing that. But we want to show them how the project looks in production, what is the real-time scenarios we are implementing. For them, we will share this HTML pages. All they can see is images of flows, understand what flows we have, right? And global configuration file. Here they will see how the connector configurations are represented. Observe, here we still don't have the actual values of the properties, right? They don't know the passwords, they don't know username, anything. This will be useful in sharing across teams, right? You need to get a lot of permissions if you are sharing sensitive information. That's not good to do, not recommended. This helps in that scenario. Okay. And let's say you don't want to get all this extra documentation, you just need images of all the flows. There you get next one, flow snapshot, right? In how to use it is currently it will be disabled by default. You click on any flow, then this will be enabled. You will see an camera icon, a black camera icon. Okay, click on that, it creates a snapshot. You just save it somewhere. Okay, I'm saving it on desktop. Let's call it as account details, meetup. Okay, it will just save it as an PNG image or JPG, whatever you want. It will be an image. So which you can just put in your Word document where you are preparing the documentation. Right. That is the feature is snapshot. It will be here. It will be disabled by default. Should click on some flow to enable it. Whatever flow you select, it will take snapshot of that. I generally use it when the flow is too big, like we cannot pull this snippet tool and take picture of this complete flow, main flow, which is like too big, right? And though you increase it, you cannot take all the picture at once. Then I use snapshot feature for creating documentations. That will be useful there. Okay, this one also interesting one. view data view on the fly. While writing data view scripts, we generally do two things. One is go to transformation node and we enter our metadata and write our schema and do a preview on that. This is good enough when you are doing initial project development, right? We put some metadata here and we write some script and see the preview if it is good enough for our requirement. Or there's one more option to write data view on cloud. There is some Docker container deployed somewhere. MuleSoft gives you this dwlang.fun, but this may not be accessible to everyone. If you are in, especially in a corporate network, may not be accessible. And also, this is not recommended to place your sensitive payloads because it's just you are sending it to someone else for processing, right? It's not good to do. And also, you may have your own Docker container deployed to your PC and then you can run it option. But the one I'm talking about here is in your studio, if you want to test with the live data, when I say live, when I'm debugging, let me show you that. Okay, the message came from some other system or the real-time data is coming here. I want to test my database script against my mule event here, not the schema one, not the example payload I gave. I want my database script to be tested against this event here, a real-time event. What I do, I click on this. This is x plus y is equal to something like equation next to your terminate button. So click on that. It pops up this data view script window. I put my script here and evaluate. This is being evaluated against your current mule event here. That is interesting thing. See, I'll change my name here. That will be changed when I click on evaluate. Observe here, evaluate. So it is changed. This 11 and these numbers are coming from my payload actually. This is a payload. 11 and that numbers coming from here. This will be useful to test. Let's say there is some issue in your database script. It's not working with your. It's working with your example, but not with your actual payload. It's failing. Then you just quickly copy your database script what you wrote already. Go here and put it here and evaluate against this. If there is some not working, then you'll just make some changes here and evaluate again. Right? This will be useful here. These are the tips which I noted. All the inconvenience, how I found a small workaround that inconveniences to make the development experience smooth. If you have something, please share with us. This will be helpful for whole community. Right? If any questions, just let me know. Thank you so much. My name is Karthik Totapalli. Signing off. Bye bye.